Good evening, and welcome to Let's Talk with Lakshmi, a show about us, our people, our community, our culture, our experiences. Viewers, we have a lot of humanitarian groups and NGO groups coming up in our community and in our society to help people, not only here in New York City and in Ghana, but worldwide. Today, it's my privilege and honor to bring on a very young, budding group, the Sadhana organization. We have Aminta Kilawan and Rohan. They are the co-founders of Sadhana. Guys, it's such a pleasure to have you here. Tell us, Aminta, a little bit about the Sadhana organization.
So Sadhana is a concept that myself, Rohan, and a few others came up with in October of 2011 to meld the values at the heart of social justice with those at the heart of the Hindu faith, and those include things like tolerance, inclusiveness, nonviolence, or ahimsa, and various others. And that is essentially, if you boil it all down, that's what sadhana is.
Right. But why? Why sadhana? Why do you want to focus on these issues and these topics?
Well, there's various different reasons. Before sadhana was created, we noticed that there was a void in the Hindu voice, in the public discourse, where it came to interfaith work. We found that there was never a Hindu representative at a lot of different interfaith events. We also noticed that there needed to be a space where Hindus could practice their faith outside of the temples, outside of rituals, outside of singing bhajans, which are wonderful, but there's other ways to practice Hinduism that are more seva-based, community service-based, and justice-based as well. So a lot of what we do revolves around issues of social justice, which we can detail for you.
Yeah, give us some examples. I mean, what are some things that you guys participate in or do?
Sure. So one thing that's been a very big project of ours that Lakshmi, we're very thankful you have publicized, and you've really been a big supporter of this project, is Project Prithvi. Prithvi is Prithvi after Prithvi Ma, who is Mother Earth. And the concept there was, a couple years ago, through the Federation of Hindu Mandirs, Rohan and I, as well as others, went to Jamaica Bay Wildlife Refuge to participate in an Earth Day cleanup. And we noticed that a lot of the items that we were picking up were Hindu in nature. We found things like aluminum pans, like styrofoam, like murtis that aren't made out of clay, but rather are made out of ceramics that were broken up and washed ashore. And it really marred the relationship between the Hindu community and the National Park Service, which is essentially the federal entity that owns Jamaica Bay.
What's their reaction, to everything that's washing up on the shores?
From National Park Service?
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you, they don't like it at all. They perceive this as very terrible for the ecosystem. Many of them come to the table with an environmental science background or are park rangers and don't like to see that the ecosystem, the waters, the beach, the sand is being polluted, as they put it, with Hindu offerings. And so the Park Service has developed a zero tolerance reaction to the Hindu offerings that are being made there. But with the advent of Sadhana, we have partnered officially with the National Park Service, and we go on a monthly basis to clean up the bay. But in addition to that, we'd like to build awareness in the Hindu community about what it means to do environmentally friendly worship at the bay and anywhere. And that has, at least it's my opinion, that has elevated the relationship between the Hindu community and the National Park Service, because they see that there is a group of Hindus who are willing to take ownership of a project to bring awareness to this issue. So I think that the relationship is much better than it was before, and the Park Service is more inclined to pave a way for us to continue to hold our traditions dear to us and practice our traditions, but do so in a way that protects the earth.
That's great. Ryan, what's the participation level with this beach cleanup that you guys have once a month?
Well, first of all, Lakshmi, thank you for having us on the show. It's a pleasure. Your success is one of the reasons why we're here. And to answer your question, and then I'll mention another thing of what Sadhana does. So once a month from April until November, we have beach cleanups by Jamaica Bay, and this is frequented anywhere from like 10 to 30 participants. And we're not saying you have to be Hindu, but it's good that we can tell the National Park Service, look, Hindus are engaging in their worship and it might hurt the environment, but take heed, Hindus are cleaning it too. So we're kind of taking ownership. Ironically, earlier today, we had a beach cleanup. Right. This was the September 6th beach cleanup. And we had, at first, there were 2, then there were 5, then there were 10. And we had at the end, we had 28 participants.
Wow.
So things actually kind of worked out. And we've noticed there is something very profound and very spiritual going to the beach and moving the sand and seeing a murti, or moving the sand and seeing a diya, and seeing these bamboo and the sari, and it's almost like a sadhana, right? It's almost like a faith in action for us. Like we're having a religious experience doing this.
And what does sadhana do with all of these things that they find?
Very good question. So interestingly enough, like I said, many communities have been receptive towards this project, not just the Hindu community. We received a grant from Citizens Committee of New York City to do this work, so we were able to purchase our gloves and our supplies, and even sometimes provide food for volunteers. But in terms of where the items that we're collecting are going, well, naturally, the things that can be disposed of in the garbage, like the aluminum pans and the styrofoam, etc., go there. But it breaks our heart to see broken murtis on the beach washed up. So what we've decided to do is partner with the Queen's Museum, and we will be having our opening on September 7th through September 28th. The exhibit will run from September 7th through the 28th, with our opening reception on September 14th. And at the museum, we will be displaying the murtis to, again, raise awareness of what is happening, and also to save these murtis from what else will happen to them if they're there. They may end up in the garbage by another group that goes to clean up, but we perceive them differently because we are Hindus and we do feel attached to these murtis. And then after our exhibit is over, we have decided to take the murtis to Pennsylvania, where there is a cow sanctuary. There is a 75-year-old man that saves cows that are, for various reasons, harmed. And at this cow sanctuary, we will build a murti sanctuary for the murtis that we have collected. And we will try to partner with local colleges to fix what has been broken, to repaint, to put the arms and the legs back on, and to really, again, show the community that this isn't the way it should have been. I mean, the scriptures have never said that we need to put these types of murtis on the beaches. Originally, when the scriptures were written, it was clay.
Right.
And
that would dissolve into the
biodegradable
water,
right, exactly. Biodegradable materials. But that's not the case today. Today, with the advent of technology and the Industrial Revolution, etc., there are different materials that are being used, and that's where we are right now.
I mean, it's wonderful that Sadhana is, taking the initiative to help clean up the beaches, help show the world, the community, Queens itself, of course, that we are taking responsibility of our actions. I mean, unfortunately, not many people are educated that, these materials are not biodegradable. They will not dissolve in the water, and they're polluting the water, they're killing the animals, the fishes, and, it's definitely not eco-friendly. So we have to thank you guys for everything that you do. What we're going to do is we're going to take a break. When we come back, we are going to talk about more things and more events and more projects that Sadhana is involved in.
2 months ago, after my mother's hospitalization, the doctors wanted to put her on hospice. And I'm like, they deemed her terminal. And I saw Mr. Thakur, I think the founder, on TV, and he was advertising this Indian community in Kings Harbor. It's a great Indian community where my mother feels at home, and she expresses her happiness to me whenever I come.
I know when I come I feel happy. I stay couple and I see everybody, and I'm so happy.
I brought my mother here like a month and a half ago, and I haven't regretted my decision. It's one of the best decisions I've made for my mother. It's a home away from home.
Elegant Floral Design. We can help you beautify your events. No occasion is too big or too small. We specialize in floral decor and party planning for every event. Please call 718-322-9786. Please use promo code Lakshmi for a discount. Nanking chain of restaurants serves a large variety of Chinese, Thai, and Indian cuisine, prepared by seasoned chefs and experienced professionals. Check out one of Nanking's newest restaurants at 134-07 Rockaway Boulevard, South Ozone Park, New York. Nanking proudly serves halal meats, vegetarian, non-vegetarian, and seafood delicacies. Nanking Restaurants caters to private and corporate events for all occasions in their restaurants and banquet halls. Nanking Restaurants, a chain of restaurants which are also conveniently located in South Springfield, New Jersey, Jersey City, New Jersey, Iceland, New Jersey, New York, New York, Atlantic City, New Jersey, New Hyde Park, Long Island, and the grand opening of their newest location at 134-07 Rockaway Boulevard, South Ozone Park, New York. Reserve your table today at 718-323-3555. That's 718-323-3555. For more information, visit nankingRestaurantGroup.com. Welcome back, viewers. Well, we are here with Rohan Narayanan and Aminta Kilawan from the Sadhana organization. They are telling us a lot about sadhana and what they're doing as progressive Hindus in our community. So guys, we touched a little bit about the beach cleanup that you guys have been actively doing once a month in the community for a few years now. Tell us a little bit about other projects that you guys have going on.
So one of the things we started doing, Aminta will mention our latest project to happen in the future. But what we did do, starting from, I think about 2 years ago, our first university we started speaking at was NYU. That's when we first formed. Our second university, actually, ironically, was Princeton University. We then spoke at Baruch College, and later on 2 more times we spoke at Princeton. And the reason why we started to hold these was to ask people what their version of progressive Hinduism is. For example, all of us who are Hindu, when we're very young, we see 10 arms, an elephant head, a blue-skinned deity, and we're seeing these and we might not get them. And so we mix with other faiths, and their faiths might be very easy to understand and have been explained to them for decades and decades. We're a new culture here. They might go off to college, and so they think to themselves, well, I don't know how to quite explain my faith. What do I really do now? And sadhana, part of sadhana is to really understand our faith and then go out there and explain it to students who are in college.
So it's so interesting that, you mentioned about, the youth trying to explain about the blue-colored god, the 10 arms. What do you say? I mean, what are the reactions to the youth today? I mean, growing up in the American society and maybe being more subjected to Christianity or just the American world. I mean, how are they adapting? How are they conforming maybe to Hinduism? Sure. And what are the reactions that you guys get?
I'll say this very quickly. The Dalai Lama said that in the world today there needs to be more storytellers. As you know, the Mahabharata, 6 times the length of the Bible. It's a story that you can read for your lifetime and more. Ramayana is a story. Bhagavad Gita is the conversation between Arjuna and Krishna, and in essence it is a story. What we've tried to do here at Sadhana, we've tried to become storytellers of our faith. This way, if the 10 arms or the elephant head or the baby Krishna and the drinking of this milk from Ganesha, these types of things we try to learn and practice. Like we talk to ourselves in a mirror and we tell stories to ourselves and we repeat them and we repeat them and we try to become good storytellers for Hinduism.
And I also think one thing that is important for purposes of our organization is we foster inquisition. We foster dialogue. We go to these events, oftentimes at college campuses, and we know we don't have all the answers. We haven't, I mean, we are not 100% versed in the scriptures, but part of strengthening your faith is to ask questions. And we have questions too. And that's part of why Sadhana exists, such that we can ask these questions and not be afraid to ask these questions and learn from each other. So at these, we call them open dialogues. And we sit in a circle, and there's not one person who has all the answers and all the questions are directed to that person. Oftentimes we come to our answers through each other. And that's the beauty of it.
Now, when you guys go out to these universities and colleges, what are the faiths generally in the audience? Are they Hindus or is it interfaith? What would you say?
Generally, we have these events through the respective Hindu organizations at the schools themselves. So for Baruch, there was the Hindu Students Association that we partnered with, and they had us there. For NYU, it was the Hindu Students Council at NYU. Actually, that Melissa Bickham, who is one of the co-founders of Operation Dreamcatchers, another wonderful organization doing great work for Guyana and for the Caribbean and here in New York, she helped us to get to NYU and have this event. And then there was also Princeton through their Hindu Students Satsangam. So it's usually Hindu groups. That being said, it's open to the public. Anybody can be there. And we've had a few who are of other faiths who do attend.
Amit and Rohan, you're both quite young. Can I ask, are you American born or are you born in Guyana? Where are you guys from?
I was born in the Bronx.
Okay, American.
That's a personal question. No, I'm joking. My dad studied in London, so I was born in the UK, but we came to Boogie Down, Brooklyn in 1988. So.
Okay, so you're predominantly New Yorkers.
Sure.
Right? So being New Yorkers, you're not growing up in Guyana or Trinidad or West Indies or India, and you probably went to school, the Bronx. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you were not going to school with other little Guyanese girls and boys. Mm-hmm. You're going to school with other cultures, other faiths. Now, growing up in the Bronx, or wherever you may have initially grown up, and going to school and being different, right? Mm-hmm. You're brown. Mm-hmm. Your hair is a little bit different, right? Your skin's not white. Mm-hmm. Your hair is not blonde. What was that like for you?
Sure. So I was born in the Bronx, and when I was a toddler, my parents moved to Queens, and then in 1996, we moved to South Ozone Park. So it was a choice of either going to the local public school or going to the private school in the area, which was in Howard Beach, Queens. My parents felt it best to send me to private school because they felt that a grounding in a Catholic school, because they felt that a grounding in any religion, whether it's Hinduism, Catholicism, etc., provides a good foundation for a child. So they sent me there, and Howard Beach is primarily an Italian-American, Irish-American community. I was and I say this with honesty, I was the only minority in my class. And until my sister started school, I was the only minority in the school. So it was difficult, to say the least. At the time, I was singing in the mandir, and I enjoyed that. But then when I hit my preteen years, I found myself getting made fun of a lot for being who I was.
You say being made fun of. Mm-hmm. What did they tell you?
Sure.
What happened?
Well, I was called things like Gandhi lover, and at the time I thought that was so terrible, but today I'm like, wait, it actually is not such a bad thing to be a Gandhi lover because I love his principles and the ideals that he lived by. But then I took it to be this huge offense. They used to steal my textbooks and draw all over them, draw bindis, and I think time has changed a lot since I was that age. I think now Hinduism has become more socially acceptable with the advent of yoga studios all over New York City particularly. You see people it's almost a fad for people to dress in an Indian way. So I think a lot has changed, but for the purposes of my childhood, it was a bit difficult to be Hindu. There were times I didn't like it at all. There were times I wanted to leave the faith, and I went through that period of not liking my religion at all.
How did you overcome this?
Well,
because I know you're very religious, and now you guys have started sadhana for Hindus. How did you overcome the name calling, the bullying, and hold on to your faith? And now, of course, you want to teach others to do the same.
Well, I think you kind of have to leave before reinventing yourself and coming back. Okay. So I found myself, for various reasons, absent from the mandir for several years in college, and I really inserted myself in doing a lot of community work, community service, international humanitarian work, various things. I did a lot of volunteer work in Harlem, etc. And I immersed myself in that, and I kind of forgot my faith. But then midway through, I had this epiphany, and like, wait, all the stuff that I'm doing actually is so intertwined with my faith. My faith teaches me to live for others and to do my dharma and to give back to the world. And why did I ever leave to begin with? And so now, in addition to singing the bhajans and doing the traditional things, I also added on this seva aspect. And from that materialized sadhana.
You always come back home.
Yeah, that's
what
true.
I have to say.
That's true.
So, Rohan, Amintal, what we're going to do is we're going to take a break. When we come back, let's talk a little bit more about sadhana. I know you guys have a lot of events coming up to benefit the community.
2 months ago, after my mother's hospitalization, the doctors wanted to put her in hospice. And I'm like, they deemed her terminal. And I saw Mr. Thakur, I think the founder, on TV, and he was advertising this Indian community in Kings Harbor. It's a great Indian community where my mother feels at home, and she expresses her happiness to me whenever I come.
I know when I come, I feel happy. I stay couple and I see everybody, and I'm so happy.
I brought my mother here like a month and a half ago, and I haven't regretted my decision. It's one of the best decisions I've made for my mother. It's a home away from home.
For all your special private and professional occasions, no event is too big or too small. We cover it all. Contact the professional source for all your party or special occasion needs. We have you covered at Star Party Rentals. Call us 516-239-2242. Please mention Let's Talk with Lakshmi for discount pricing.
Day? Well, the most important thing is capturing that special moment. No matter what the occasion is, big or small, Digital Photo by Buddy can capture it all. For all of your memorable events, whether it is a wedding, graduation, anniversary, sweet 16, puja, baby shower, or 9-day, Buddy will do it all. Just call Buddy at 917-741-9876. Digital Photo by Buddy, capturing your memories. Please mention you saw this ad on Let's Talk with Lakshmi.
Welcome back, viewers. We are here with the Sadhana Coalition. You know, there is a great saying that says, the hands that serve are greater than the lips that pray. And here we have two youths in our community that are so dedicated to seva work. I mean, guys, we talked about some of the events that you guys have done, like the beach cleanup. I know you have tons of things coming up in the near few weeks and months, and of course years. Rohan, tell me about some of the next projects that you guys have coming up.
Well, actually, this is something that Aminta is spearheading. So, but I let her speak about that. One of the things I'm doing, it was a bit under the radar, but since we're on TV, I don't think it's going to be under the radar. I'm planning another film screening.
Okay.
So this is about a film named Kumare. It's a very interesting thing, to not go into too much about it. It's about an Indian man who grew up in Union Square. He goes to India, studies yoga, and then ends up in Arizona and calls himself a guru, and starts this like fake yoga school to see if God is in you or if people are clamoring to these gurus because God is in them. And he does this like social experiment. And I think in our community, there's, from the West Indies, it's part of our culture, the pundit, the pundit, the pundit, the pundit, right? It's like we're drawn to the pundits, but are we gonna get the religion from them, or is the religion in here? And so my project is to screen the film here, invite the director, have a decent panel. There might or may not be resistance.
And what's your answer to that question?
I think that...
Is it the pundit or is it in here?
Well, from a young age, we know how to read. It's one of the things that leads to conversion to outside faiths is we fail to read our own texts. Granted, a guru would help, but it's my belief that if we know how to read, open the scripture. I believe in Gita, and it's very important for us. My guru says this all the time. There's 800 verses in the Gita. If we read 3 every day, you can get through the Gita in 180 days. There's nothing wrong with doing that. It's in English now. There's from Chinmayananda's translation to Yogananda's translation to Vivekananda's translation. There's nothing stopping us from becoming good, solid Hindus. And I think what intimidates people is, as I mentioned before, this art of storytelling. At a recent wake, I told a Buddhist story amongst priests, and at the end I gave a very slight Hindu mantra, just saying Om. And people were intimidated. And I feel Aminta saying before, she was in Howard Beach, she was the only minority, they threw a lot of slurs at her. How does she overcome this? I think what Sadhana tries to do to overcome this is to have us become better storytellers, because that's one of the gifts we have, and we, as Sadhana, tried to do.
And I have to say, you are a wonderful storyteller. I was also at the wake that you're speaking of, you know, rest in peace, Frankie.
Yes, yes.
And, but let me ask you a question. Hindus believe God is one. As Hindus believing God is one, do you think it matters if you're Hindu, Christian, Muslim?
I don't think so at all. I think you can be Hindu and be Christian at the same time, actually. Because God is one. And because Hinduism is, it's a way of life. Oftentimes it is perceived that way. So, absolutely.
It was very interesting. I know a couple years ago, I believe it was the first movie you were screening, Sita Sings the Blues. And I have to thank you. It's because of you I think I watched that film. And I found it very interesting to see how an American woman looked at our Ramayana and how Ram treated Sita, and you know how we look at a husband and wife relationship and Hinduism and your roles, right? Your role as a king, as a husband, as a father, the different roles. So I have to thank you. And then, you know, this next movie that you're going to be screening, definitely let us know. I mean, I would love to come out to that.
Sure.
So
sure.
I know you're actually collaborating with the Caribbean Voice.
Yes.
With the huge suicide epidemic that's going on in Guyana. Right now, according to CNN, Guyana was rated the #1 country in the world with the highest rate of suicide. So what will you guys be doing with the Caribbean Voice, Aminta?
So, well, we will try our best to be in large numbers at their conference. But even prior to that, as mentioned in a previous episode, Anandji said that suicide is everybody's business.
Right.
And it's our business here in the United States, in New York City as well. So what we have planned is a series of events which will take place at the Lefferts branch of the Queen's Library on healthy relationships, because it's important to address these in totality, because they all trickle into this issue of suicide. Your relationship with your spouse, your relationship with your friends, your relationship with yourself. It could lead to positivity, or it could lead to dire straits like suicide. So we have an event and a speaker series planned. the second Saturday of every month at Lefferts Library. The first will be on domestic violence and date abuse. We have partnered with the Queens District Attorney's Office, with Connect, which is an organization in Harlem, with CADVA, which is led by Diane Madre and Sukri Badram, and that will be the first event.
So you're going to have trained counselors and therapists here,
Right, and we'll also have community leaders. The second event will be on the relationship with the self. It will talk about issues of drug abuse, of alcohol abuse, and of suicide. Ananji will play a pivotal role there. Pandit Sugrim of the New Jersey Arya Samaj Humanitarian Mission will also play a role there. And we have some young leaders in the community who have delved into issues of drugs and alcohol and have changed as a result of noticing the negative consequences it bears on their life. So they will also speak. And it's important for young people to hear young people. So
What would you say is your target group for Sadhana?
I think to put it best, it's those who come around the bend. So you're 16, you're 17, you have questions about the faith. As Aminta said, a couple of years she stopped going to the mandir, and then all of a sudden, boom, she had these questions, and she came around the bend. Sadhana caters to those who are kind of like on this walk, turning the corner. Whether it's having questions about your faith, having questions about who you want to be when you grow up, what your parents want you to be when you grow up, this conflict that happens when you're like going around the bend, 18 to 25.
Okay.
18 to 25.
And when we're talking about going around this bend and we're talking about faith and religion and everything that's going on, living in a different country where there are so many different cultures and religions, what are your thoughts on interfaith relationships?
I'm actually
How does Sadhana fit into
one
that?
of our co-founders. I'll mention this very quickly. She does a Bal Vihar. It's just for children. It's like a children's Hinduism class, and all of the parents are from interfaith marriages. So it's a Jewish and a Hindu, or a Christian and a Hindu, and it's like all these kids are from essentially Hinduism and another faith, and this whole class comprises of like parents, children whose parents are from interfaith marriage. So I advocate the stance for me is I'm totally okay with that. I think it allows for a greater and more peaceful human generation going forward.
Do you find that maybe there's need for support with this with our upcoming generations, or do you think that parents today are open and they're fine? Because I know my time, I don't think my mother would be okay with that. What do you think about the generation now and the parents?
I agree with you. I don't know if my parents would be okay if I were marrying someone out of my faith. And maybe that's why I tend to gravitate towards someone of my same faith. That being said, we're living in different times.
Right.
And we need to be more tolerant of everybody. Because I think we're living in revolutionary times. So I do think there needs to be support for parents to understand that there needs to be tolerance.
And what are your thoughts on the LGBT community?
I think that, well, great question. It's an issue of respect. I think it's people have said this word tolerance, and I'm all for tolerance, but mutual respect is essential. Last year there was this attack, or alleged attack on a gay individual here in our community, and I think it brought out this seriousness that they're human beings just like us. They have feelings. They pay mortgage. They pay taxes. They have car payments. They're just like us. And who are we to tell them what they can or can't do in the bedroom? It's absurd. Two of my close friends are gay, and we go out all the time. And my dad, whenever I come home, my dad is like, "Oh, what are you doing out there with them?" So even my dad's generation, they're still a little insensitive. But for me, I support them. I see them just as a human being, and I think if West Indians, there's a little homophobia in the West Indian community, but as Aminta said, and as you are a living embodiment of, is change, and having change come, albeit slowly, but it will happen.
So are these some of the topics and issues you will be covering in your healthy relationship
Absolutely,
seminar?
absolutely,
Okay.
yes.
So guys, in 5 years from now, where will we see Sadhana?
You will see us inserted in every single temple in this community. We've already made inroads in several temples, and that's the goal. The goal is to be a partner to these temples and provide them with a space outside of the temple where they can do work with us.
And in 5 years, I'd love to see a 3-story sadhana center. On the first floor will be classes on, like you said, LGBT acceptance, interfaith marriages, and then maybe a yoga studio on the second floor and a third floor for something like this where we can have panel discussions taped and maybe aired on your show or the next Lakshmi. Yeah, the next Lakshmi.
Of course. Well, guys, I just have to commend you on all the great work that you guys have been doing in the community. I mean, I do see all of the younger generations coming together, working together, collaborating collectively for a great cause to just make our community better. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Let's Talk with Lakshmi. Make sure you go to www.sadhana.org. Check out their future events, check out what they're all about, their goal, their mission, and we'll catch you next week. Same time, same place. It's a date. Let's talk.